This is the entire premise of his answer. It should be seen as technology. Yeah, at least not. At least not until if and when it's really widespread. Yeah, and then. So what if is widespread? Yeah, but it's so annoying that everything is so. It's vague. The answers are so vague, right? It's widespread. Okay, it's widespread. What does that mean? If it's like flying, it's almost like the accessibility. Oh, like airline companies.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's the space, so it's so multiplied, right, compared to the Earth.
Yeah, but
like
no,
it's still. I think they compare it to the amount of population we have. So the people that can afford to fly now won't be able to afford going to space.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. You know? On a longer scale,
it's still not. It's still not that everybody can afford flying now.
Oh no!
So in the same sense, I think the masterism is just like we have masterism now. Is people, the average person from a certain amount of wealth can travel. Middle and high class.
Yeah, but it just seems like all the estimates online are way higher. Like, the mass tourism tickets are way more than an average ticket costs.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to call my doctor.
Doctor.
Hello. What are my blood test results?
What was I going to say? Yeah, because mass tourism, there's no definition of when it's mass.
Shouldn't we ask this to makeup first? Because we have a claim on makeup, and we can ask, like, when in the slide you talked about mass tourism, do you have a precise definition in mind, or do you want us to make the definition of that?
Exactly, yeah.
And then we should ask Mika about, like, we were discussing also when there what's the real purpose of the challenge, because there is no end question. Like.
Exactly.
And also, like, is the presentation the final? Like, do we have to concentrate? To highlight what I think so far we have thought about the presentation is the end goal, and it's not.
No, exactly. That's what I've thought all the time. Like, that's our product.
Yeah, but maybe it's not.
Maybe it's not, and maybe we can define our own.
Yeah, which is again is and less constraint.
Yeah. I have a professor. He works in a company called Plato Science, and he wrote a PhD about creativity within constraints. So he argues that you can be more creative if you have constraints.
But I think that's like scientifically proven.
He scientifically proved it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Say thank you to the guy. I'm gonna embrace this.
Yeah, did we take a picture of that just so we?
Yeah, I did. Maybe it's better.
For the video diary, maybe.
Yeah, that would be great. And maybe just a few words on why it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it also looked like a budget or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you can always make it prettier in Illustrator and then print it out. Call it the dream scale.
The dream scale.
So
you have your new PhD there.
Yeah. Mika. I have one important question. It's maybe we should have about the definition, yeah. But then also, what does the audience know? Do we need to make like a collective agenda? Each group has a different setting. I think that could be also a very interesting approach. So if every group we know for a fact that each group isn't going to be talking about the same thing, right?
Yeah, that would be so disappointing.
Exactly. So like collective agenda, is there somewhere we can list what people are talking about and make sure that we don't end up saying the same shit?
Overlapping.
Yeah.
And then the purpose of
And then maybe you can do a what do you call it? A think, like a what are they called? The one you put
the minus
no the
kind
dash.
of thing.
Yeah, and then do a like product in citation.
You just speak German?
Ah, yes.
So.
versus presentation.
Because sometimes the German is like a Danish one.
Ja.
And then help.
Genau.
Or somewhat like
Nation. So, affordability. When you say affordability, do you mean feasibility, or
Also, I just mean like affordability. What's gonna make
for
it?
the planet or for the consumer?
Yeah, not for the planet.
Okay.
But it's my question kind of has both of those things. I have a question that's what's the biggest threat to affordability? Because one biggest threat could be that it's not sustainable, and therefore we can't make it affordable.
So it's more about sustainability.
No, that's the first part of the question. And then the other part is, and which predictions do you have regarding technologies that will help drive ticket prices down?
But why do we care about the biggest threat to affordability if we're just gonna assume that it's affordable? Is that really,
No, I think you meant the threat to the planet, or
the first part is about the planet, and then what are their predictions about technology?
Can you ask the question from the start again?
What's the biggest threat to affordability, and which predictions do you have
Affordability in what way?
Affordability is
As
just
in,
an
like, being able to
arbitrary
pay.
term. It's like when I think you can interpret it how you want. It can either be affordability within the planet, like what resources are we using.
Okay.
I think that's where it guides when I ask technology afterwards. But then I end it with ticket prices. So, for example, you know how the airline company. Yeah, there are two different questions in one. I'm just trying. I don't want to ask short questions like what is blah, blah, blah. Because when you ask a short question, they don't. People tend not to reflect too much on it. It's just like they have this. What's the average price of a ticket? And then they have like some. It's gonna be within 200 kroner or 200.
But I think we should ask the question as alone, just to get like the number done.
Well, we have so many. Space Nation's gonna give us one. Then we're gonna get another one.
We're just gonna pick Space Nation's number.
Huh?
Then we just pick the Space Nation's number because at some point we just have to pick things, and then it just assume that that's right.
Okay, so that's what you want to do. You want to.
We have to make some decisions.
No, I'm asking you. You want to go with Space Nation words, and not the scientific paper that was written.
Okay, what scientific paper?
The one that we both shared yesterday. Wait, what is it? The cost of implementation. Here. Potential economic implications of the development of space tourism by Collins and Ashfield.
But then we don't need to ask him about the price, if we already know the price.
That's what my point was.
Okay, then we should just more ask about how will the technology evolve in the sense of like where will we get the energy from?
Exactly.
How will the
like what
space air flights will change in order for them to be sustainable? Will they be sustainable in 2037?
Yeah, I think that's kind of like a framing question. I would rather ask what is the predictions of the technology.
Okay.
Like, so we don't frame it like, oh, you have to be sustainable. Because then we can more or less see, is it actually a question they have in their head without us framing the question in sustainability?
I think the answer the question has to be clear though, because your affordability question is not clear, because then it sounds more like cost-wise for the consumer.
Then just ask, which predictions do you have regarding technology? Future technology in space tourism. Because I assume we're talking to science people.
Are you ready for a talk with Mika?
Yeah, I think so.
Are you ready in 2 minutes to talk to me?
And
that's just, it's scary to say 2 minutes if you don't know if he's ready.
Oh yeah, it was just because you say call him.
Yeah, but he might not be ready.
Okay. So are you just ready at some point today?
I think instead of themes, we have 3 different points of view. One is the industry, one is the consumer point. So who's going to be like traveling to space and how much you're going to pay for a ticket, and the third one is the planet, so the impact on the planet.
And the price for the ticket we're just gonna take from the scientific paper.
Yeah, unless they say something. I just don't want to ask directly, like what is the cost, because I can look it up and I can get 5 different price tickets. So but if we just say below 2,000, when it becomes mass tourism, I think that's a fair estimate because it doesn't say.
You think $2,000 is a fair estimate for?
According to the paper, like the potential economic implications, that's what they say. It's a they have the graph that says.
To just fly up and down, right? No.
This is Leo, and their definition of what that is 7 to 10 days. That's tourism in space. For the premise of this, like that's.
But that's
one
not
of the
going to be $2,000 in total for the 7 to 10 days. It's just the flight cost up and down.
Yeah. Yep.
That makes kind of sense because it's literally just 3 hours?
Yeah, I don't know. I could check. How long does it take to?
I think the Axiom Space one tells you.
But I think that'll also get better and better and better, because you're not trying to reach terminal velocity. So you could even go real fast and then stop and then kind of cruise around, because I really want to. I'm not sure who the people from SpaceX are. Are we talking to scientific people?
Space Nation.
Yeah, SpaceX. I wish.
The guy Mastak, I think he would call it. He knows quite a lot.
Okay, so we could potentially ask him about technology.
I think so, but I'm not sure.
But it doesn't. He can just. According to his opinion, it's still a different opinion. He doesn't have to know.
Guys, I think the important is the scenario. So of course there are some cornerstones that could be made out of technology, but they could also made out of some prediction where you say, so taken, as you said before, that this is happening 20 years from now. Then go forward from that, and then what will otherwise be possible. And that's imaginative.
Yeah, but that's what we were talking as well about yesterday. If we say that, okay, this is gonna happen, but then we need to as well the implications of it. Just like, let's say 20 years ago we said we're gonna have smartphones, and then it's not just like we will have smartphones and then look like this and they have these gadgets, but then we have to as well talk about all the implication that smartphone has, and what follows from that. You know.
But don't try. Christian said it.
Not to go to.
Don't try to boil the ocean. Yeah. Like make your corners and figure out. So in 2037, space tourism. What do we think now? Now we have read quite a lot of things. What will be the scenario? What will be? You have done the process already. Probable, plausible, and so on. And then you already have, I would imagine, quite a lot to take in and start the scenario. And then you have a lot of areas where you say, this is maybe this we need to discuss further, because technology could go this and this and this. Write 2 dots about it, park it, go to the next one.
For me, it was still kind of abstract, but now that I read like the Axiom Space page, which talked about like how the trip is gonna look like, and they have like this, and they say that it's gonna be by 2019 to be able to travel up there, stay for a couple of days, and travel back down. And then it seems pretty crazy, which I was like, that will already be like something special, but it's already happening now. So in that sense, if that's happening within the next 2 years, let's say it happens within the next 4 years, just to.
I noticed that the other team yesterday tried to go backwards in the sense. So 10 years ago or 20 years ago, what was the prediction? And then they could see, whoa, that actually happened quite a lot here. And other areas they were like, nothing really happened.
Yeah. And could you send me the phone number to Vicky?
Yes, of course, you can also just call from mine.
But as well read like the International Space Station.
Huh?
Like the International Space Station.
Right.
If it doesn't, I mean, it'll need eventually public money because otherwise they'll just shut it down.
Usually people hire NASA now to help them because they have the
That's
best
interesting.
engineer. Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's just with any new technology, the number one driving force of any technology is private funding.
I disagree because you have North Korea sending mass rockets today, so there's going to be more investment in military expense and R&D. So, like a lot of innovation are driven by public government R&D.
I think if you look at the numbers of public,
I don't think
startups and companies in general, public money is that then.
But like a lot of technology used for like geolocalization, iPhone, blah blah, they first are invented by public government because of military needs, and then the startups take the technology and refine it and make it like.
I can actually give you a number to like aware of.
There's a really nice TED talk about it. How everyone thinks that like Apple and the big companies innovate, but then if you really look into the government that started first.
I'm actually currently.
Yeah, but the government it's not people hired in the government. It's the government. I guess it's the government paying private companies.
But if you, right now, if you look at how much money a country has and how much money companies have, it's insane. There's way more money in private than there's in public.
But it's also, of course, the best people are not going to be publicly working on a public paycheck. Because they can make probably 5,000 times more in the private sector. If you're a very talented engineer, you can make way more money in the private sector. But it's this weird disalignment.
So he will call.
You make so much. You gain so much respect, and it's so good to have on your CV working for the government in any program, like in engineering programs.
Yeah.
But then you use that experience to get hired in the private sector and make way more money. It's
okay. Here I have
very odd.
a graphic of like R&D about the focus sector is just in the US.
Okay.
But that's the slide that we got. Oops, sorry. So the part that does R&D is 70% is businesses that do that. And funding source is 60%
and then
from business,
just before the
30%
Space
from federal
Nation
government.
talk, right?
So what R&D is primarily done by business. Government funds it partially, as you see. It funds it more than it does it itself. But it's still primarily business that funds and does R&D.
Okay. I agree with this. It's just some technology, and I'm gonna link you the TED talk because it's really interesting. Are born during war times.
Yeah, of course.
And it's always like private companies that develop it, but it's us from the government.
Yeah, it's funded by the government.
The government funds 30% of R&D, whilst it only performs 11% of it. So this goes towards businesses, as this is clearly the difference that is made here. Yeah. But regardless, it's primarily business that funds and does research. This is in the United States.
It's very different. If you for example looked at the Soviet standard distribution of funding for a capitalistic country, I could imagine.
Yeah.
Especially with a kind of a free market. But
I think as well, like if you look at like Scandinavian countries, this share will be a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
I think.
The federal government?
Yeah.
Han ringer ind om 20 minutter.
Just if you have a wealthier state, of course it's going to fund.
Der er et eller andet problem, så vi snakker med os om. Fint nok.
But it will be looking roughly the same, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Nu. Ja, gå mig igennem.
In most developed countries that are not.
De andre
Well,
godt
even if you
kørende
look at Tesla,
og
they've had
fedt
so
brug for de
much
20
money.
minutter, fordi de vil gerne arbejde videre på sin eget.
And they have
Hvad?
all Elon Musk's companies have almost
Cool.
every single one of them almost gone corrupt or like what do you call
Men lad
bankrupt
os gøre et eller andet omkring
at some
så
point.
det bliver
SpaceX,
fokuseret.
their last attempt to fucking land the rocket, all their money was gone, and they land it, and the stocks just go because they're like, oh, they can actually do it.
Yeah. But yeah, so
Nå, det er internet.
Ja, men det er fordi, at den,
bear in mind.
det ser ud som om,
I
at
think
den
we should
er
also map the market of like
5 gange
what
så
are
hurtig,
current actors
den
within
der,
it.
som den
Yeah, I
var
think
før.
Are they?
But
det
yeah,
tror
we
jeg.
could.
Den
You
her
could also just
er
find
lige ved
somewhere
siden af,
online
og den anden
because
er
it's
faktisk
the
det-
most
det er hastigheden.
complex market.
Nå.
It's
Så et er, hvor god forbindelsen er der, og andet er
technology,
hastigheden.
because everybody's
På
contracting
nettet
with
fra det og ud i
everybody.
verden.
Nå, det er jo
And
fedt.
underneath the
15
contracts,
hurtigt,
there's
synes jeg.
another contract,
En
and
kombination
then they hire
Ja, det
consultants
betyder
from
ikke
other
det her.
Jeg
companies.
tror faktisk,
and
den der,
it's strange. Like my friend, he works for Boeing.
nogle gange siger
He
du som
works
den er
for the
stærkere.
military, and
okay,
he
og det er
works
fordi,
for
jeg tror også, de har
SpaceX
ikke
and
sådan
NASA at the
blik
same time.
Det er jo det, der hører til stedet, der ejer den.
Ja, men den ligger nede.
In order to
Sikker på det?
work
Ja, ja, fordi de snakkede om,
aerospace, you have
at
to
nogle
have
gange så gik den ud, fordi den var
clearance.
placeret helt nede, og så skulle de
Especially
løbe
because
ned.
he's flying one of the module or in charge
Den her,
of
det er
one
den,
of
der
the
står
modules.
lige inde ved siden af.
So he has to have a top level clearance in order
Well, let's see.
27, I think. But he's from the States, so they usually have a faster education and they're in the job market faster, right?
Yeah, Danes are really slow.
Yeah, but we're very, very slow, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Creative peeps. But yeah, he.
Because in Germany, like partially we are like there's quite a few that are done with high school at 16.
At 16?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Because we have we have one year cut done, and
Okay.
then more and more parents are sending their kids early on into school.
Yeah.
I was done with them.
Synes jeg særligt godt lide.
How old are you
Ja,
now?
enig. Men bare, det er jo fint, det er bare det, vi
So
siger.
you're pretty.
And I took
Skal jeg gå ind?
Men er vi sikre, men det synes jeg, vi skal, men er vi sikre på, at det er final, det der?
And that's how people start.
Nå, de lige har sendt det her.
Start,
Men
like,
det er
you
ikke
know,
det, de diskuterer
maybe a year later.
nu, som der er grunden til, at vi har kaldet senere.
Well, it's
Det
the,
er
I don't.
Nej,
I-
nej,
Bare lige for-
det er
It's a
simpelthen noget med i
It's
det
a-
fag,
it's a
som nogle
weird
af
focus,
deres
I
studerende
think.
har.
Nå, det er sådan noget.
Som
Den
gør, at de
lokale
måske
issue.
Because
rykker
in Denmark, that had a huge
tidspunktet,
backlash.
Nå, det er sådan noget.
Trying
Prøv
to
at
make
Mika for
people
det,
go
for
through
rykket, sådan, jeg tror,
educations
der er
quicker,
Men det kunne jo
and
godt
now
være egentlig,
limiting
hvad
one education.
Det kunne potentielt til.
Ja, om det bliver
And
eller
now
ej,
people
jeg
just
synes
drop
stadig,
out. It's
vi
like,
skal
okay, I don't
køre
want that
efter, at vi skal
education.
forberedt.
I'll just do
It's
something.
so stupid. I was
Ellers så kan vi jo
Fair nok.
slet ikke gøre noget.
Fair nok.
But then I
Godt.
had only to do that.
Vi skal have en.
Ja,
But
ja, men så skal vi godt så.
ridiculous. But as well,
Så giver vi sådan, vi giver information om, at det er udskudt. Og det
You
her,
don't
det
know
vi har
what you
fået.
want.
Til gengæld er der kommet
No,
like how
sådan
can
lidt på.
17
Men så skulle de,
you decide for
Kan du,
30-year-old you how you'll like
har jeg det der, eller vil du vise det her på? Hvad gør vi lige?
Du har fået det
If
på
I
mail.
study,
You think so?
Har jeg fået
if
det
I
med?
study
Ja,
engineering,
privat.
it's a different.
Jeg
Of course,
tror, det var
depends
Student
on, like,
House.
how
Well,
different it is.
Ja, men det er
And
fint
if I was
til
to
mig.
study engineering,
til,
it's very different to if I study arts or
See.
business. You know what I mean?
But engineering is probably, in order for you not to be on a specific course, I think engineering is the education that has most people going in different directions.
Yeah, because you can go anywhere.
Yeah, everybody wants
But I
to
don't
if you
know
have
what
an
if it is.
engineering background, and it's regardless of what you do. You can do aerospace engineering, you can do
But no,
mathematical
det har
engineering,
sidst.
And
design
then it depends
engineering.
what kind of studies you do,
Chemical.
so how open.
De sender alle deres
But if you do something specific, I don't know. Some people go like into then I don't know history or what do I know or
Yeah.
arts or, and then it's like okay. There's not. It's
Jeg samler
limited
folk
what
til.
you can do, but what
Especially for arts, yes.
Yeah. But like if you have engineering or physics or something like that, it actually ends up being pretty broad of what you can do.
Yeah. But I think especially for especially in the States for engineers, it's not so much that you took a specific like degree like chemical engineering. Oh, then we can't use you. It's more that you are an engineer, so you have a certain mindset of thinking about problem solving and a logic way of attacking a problem.
But I think that's what the bachelor is about in general, just teaching you how to think
learn.
and learn. And then the masters, of course, expertise, knowledge, and PhD also.
Sorry, I'm gonna go off topic, so I'm gonna go back to the project.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, sorry.
No, don't worry. So when we talk about space tourism, it's something that we feel we don't have any attachment to, because it's just for really rich people. A sort of like 3 companies that we really don't know that much about that are acting on it, and the government, which is in control of regulation. And so we normal people don't feel like any relation to it and any power to shape it. So the public that's going to be at the presentation is going to feel the same as us. What if our question is like, how can you, as average person, Joe, whatever, can shape the future of tourism? Like, how can a normal person interact with this industry or help shape the industry on which side?
Yeah. But how would we do that?
No, I don't have the answer, I just have the question.
Alright. I'm just saying, how would we, what are your immediate thoughts on how we would answer? Like, if you had a game plan, where would we go to look at information? Because it's kind of hard for us to have an impact if it's government regulated. Unless we can vote for ambassadors, that will help.
As well as quite the network thingy, as we spoke earlier about. It's like really intertwined.
Yeah.
Like
it's a cobweb, we get so lost.
That's the challenge.
Yeah. But I think we should just focus on, right now, just the Mika questions, go through in our head what we want to know.
Yeah.
Because we're going to Skype with them now.
We just have a quick, they have some troubles over there, so Mika just had to handle that. Okay. We have some slides, whole new slides from Finland that we just want quickly to go through. There are also some sentences that are good for you to follow, so we will also send the slides for you as well.
So a bit of an update to what we told you this morning, but not much.
It's Teresa's slides, so we can jump over this one, because that's
good place to start
for the Finnish students. The program over there match our program like totally. Just remember the hour ahead. But the human-centered design process is the center of today, so that's why I could hear that you were already talking words that ties to this, but you will soon also, I think, go to the processes with hopes, fears, and assumptions. I hear it as well. So slowly today, after the talk with Mika and Space Nation, then start up this process.
And there is a bit of a guide in the slides also, right?
Exactly. For that. Your goal of today is to design the skeleton of your scenario, framing your scenario. The most important thing is that you and your team are on the same page. Don't take decisions for the sake of taking decisions. It's okay to know, to not know at this point. You probably want to somewhat reframe and reiterate next week. That was what we also said tomorrow, but it's important to remember, because the presentation today is to show your current state of the scenario. And that could change, because you could read some new articles, or you could decide to go more into depth with something. So,
and I think that it's a scenario, but it also says frame.
Yeah.
You know, so the frame of the scenario is as important, and that is also, you know, framing the scenario. So what we want to just remember that. Yeah.
The presentation. So pitch the premise of your scenario. That was what we talked about as well. The corner flags of your scenario. They could be technology based. They could also be based on so many other things. So be very precise on what you are basing your scenario on, and what is your key insight so far. You already have your post-its and the small research. You have done a lot of more research, I can understand. Use that as well as your other knowledge and insight. What is your intended impact with the scenario, on whom and why? And that's this process again, because it will help you with the scenario, because now you have a lot of research and so many thoughts, but for whom? And what is the hopes and fears and assumption? That will make the scenario much more robust and easier to talk about as well. One supportive visual probe that illustrates the big idea of your scenario. So if you could do, Teresa hate written words, that's why there's a question, exclamation mark. But picture, drawing, prototype, video, it could also be posted, whatever you want to underlie your small presentation.
But, sorry,
yes.
If we're making 2 presentations, should we make it like 1.5 minutes for each? If we're not sure which scenario we're going to go with. Because you said have 1 to 2.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good question. I would say it's up to you, because I would love to hear both presentations.
Yeah.
But probably they will tie together somewhat, because it's the same year and they are independent.
Take
4 minutes.
Well, you got a minute now more, right? So it's not 2 but 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think, depending on what you like, I think I would rather have 3 minutes for 1 than 1.5 for 2.
Yeah.
But I guess it's up to you, basically.
Yeah.
It's not much time to talk about something.
Yeah.
It's really, really short.
So if you know how to present both inside these 3 minutes, then do that. Otherwise, concentrate on one of them.
Okay.
And the deliverable is the pitch and something not written.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So underline. That is the... here we have 2 slides that talks into the process that we're doing here. We will send those slides for you, because we will do it in the group work that we have here. And here mostly, because this will go a bit later. We will do that in a second. He's just written that he's
written now. Okay.
So what we will jump to now is the Mika session, and then after that the Space Nation, and then start up the process with this. I will just text Mika.
So
Yeah. Man ændrer sin status i Google. Og lige til det er ikke anonymt. Ja, det er pisseirriterende, jeg ikke kan. Det er hvem de andre, der er herinde er.
Are you calling?
Ja, anonym flodsvin.
I'm not calling anybody yet, but I'm ready to.
Call Teresa, I think. Okay.
Kan du bare skrive det i...
sidder bare lige og tænker over ligningen for centrifugalkraft.
The Drake equation.
Drake?
Yeah, the Drake equation. It was a French philosopher called Francis Drake.
Okay.
But I think it's a cool name. And it accounts for all the variables needing to be in place to find extraterrestrial life in a foreign, like on a planet. There's an equation for it. It's called the Drake equation. So basically, the equation for life.
Yeah.
Drake would love
What is this?
If he made that,
Yeah.
a little bit.
He should take ownership of it. It would help popularize science.
Yeah.
I should have it here. Here it is.
Yeah, for carbon-based life, probably, right?
No, actually, that's one of the.
Or is it?
It has 7 terms. That needs to be. But the thing is, we only know about life as we know it. Like we have only one data point.
Yeah, carbon-based.
So carbon-based, chemical-bound, amino acid-built life. Only using like L amino acids, left-hand amino acids.
Gonna have one of those.
I think one of them is from me.
Hvem er Camilla?
That's the one coming later.
Yeah.